What does an 18-year veteran of the tech industry and a 20-year veteran of the military have in common? More than you might think. Welcome, everyone, to the Second Act podcast, leveling up your life's journey. John, what's happening?
Hey, Michael, how you doing, sir?
I am good. Back from New York.
Yeah, the big city.
The Big Apple. I was not in Manhattan. I was in Brooklyn this time, visiting with our amazing producer and some of his people there. Really outstanding time, getting to know some folks and hanging out and getting some of the local Brooklyn vibe. I haven't spent much time in Brooklyn, but it's really awesome. We went to this incredible space for a cocktail the first night I got in there called Westlight, which is on top of this hotel, overlooks all of Manhattan lit up at night. It's just, I've never had a view like that anywhere in New York. So if anybody's headed to New York and is in Brooklyn, I recommend definitely spending a few minutes going up to the top of that hotel and grabbing a drink at Westlight for sure.
Man, and this isn't sponsored by them.
No sponsor. This is
free promotion.
Free promotion for them. But the experience was just phenomenal. And definitely got a couple of cool photos from there. So, yeah.
Man, New York at this time of year is such a phenomenal place. I grew up in the Midwest, not a fan of big cities, and then I went to New York and spent some time over a Christmas, and it just was transformational, and I loved it. We sat at a bar, piano bar, like classy piano bar, and the gentleman was playing some Sinatra while we were drinking some old fashions. It just is embedded in my mind as this Christmas memory that I'll always have, just a unique place. But yeah, I enjoyed my experiences in New York, so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the energy there is wild, and there's not really another city like it. That I've been to many of the larger cities in the world, and there's just something special about New York. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Boy, let's get into the show. You want to?
Yeah. Before we jump in, just a reminder, on Thursday, December 14th, we have an amazing fundraiser coming up.
Yeah.
We're partnering with Hire Heroes, helping to raise awareness and some money for them and their organization. They help military veterans and their families find employment post-military. And they have a lot of data to support the things that they're doing and the impacts that they're having on that community. So we're super excited and proud to be helping them out. So we're looking forward to anybody who's expressed interest or has bought tickets already. Looking forward to seeing you at that event.
I love that organization, really do. And I've had some opportunities working with them and really appreciate what they are doing for people like me. So. Well, welcome back to the Second Act podcast, everyone. This is a place where people come to share their personal stories and how they're reimagining their life journey, given a newfound perspective of success, personal aspirations, and what truly matters. These are exciting times for us here on the show. We've had some amazing guests already.
Amazing. But
we're just getting started. And the upcoming lineup of guests is really impressive to me, from everyone from tech to military to other areas in the civilian sector. Man, the lineup it's impressive who we've been able to reach out to and who has said that they want to share their second act or their journey to their second act and just share their highs and their lows. So, man, this is going to be an exciting next couple weeks recording some of these episodes.
Yeah, I never thought I would accidentally stumble on maybe what is one of the best conversation starters. But when you talk about, online media and the thing we're doing with the second act and just those three words, for some reason people are like, oh yeah, I'm on my second act or my third act or my fifth act, and they have a story to tell in terms of how they got there, and just having that initial conversation around the concept of the second act leads to some interesting back and forth, and then before you know it, we're getting agreement to have another guest on the show, and like you said, it's super impressive. A group of folks who, we've already had two amazing folks with Sarah, who started a nonprofit, with Christy, who started a really awesome organization business here in Colorado after leaving corporate America. And, there's many more to come. Some of the tech folks that I've been privileged to work with or had engagement with in my life, and some of the folks that from the military community. It's just really awesome, and it's going to take us out a ways. So we're excited for what we have lined up, and we're excited that they're excited to come on the show and share their story.
Yeah, I'm laughing because I remember when you and I first started talking, and not to get into it too far, but we only signed up to do this for 7 episodes.
7.
We thought this would be exciting to talk about, and we could probably do it for about 7 hours.
Yeah.
And I think you and I have, sat back and thought how far we could go. And 50, 100 episodes is what we think we have in us right now, and probably farther. But man, it's been an incredible journey so far. And I know we're only on episode 12 or 13 recording wise.
Yep.
But man, looking at the list of people we have coming on, I think, man, I could do this for a long time, because I'm learning so much, and I'm seeing correlations in everyone else's story that's validating the things that I went through over the past year and I'm still going through. And it's just exciting to know that we are building this community out of people that are here to support each other in our journey.
Yeah, and I think the biggest takeaway from the guest episodes, at least for me, is, they've had to overcome some obstacles and persevere in various facets of their life, and it just humanizes everybody in a way that is very relatable. Whether you're super successful or you're on your path to becoming successful. Or you've maybe had a failure that's knocked you down, and just sharing that information with the audience, with us. It just, in some ways, it gives everyone a little reassurance that, there's, things are going to happen, and
they're normal.
They're normal. Exactly. Yeah. So, but we thought the audience today might want an update on our second act journeys, what we've learned so far. What we're still learning. And today I think we should talk about like signs of life. Like, what are the things that we've seen early days in what we're doing that has kept us going, and kept us motivated. And, it's not like money's raining down on us yet in any meaningful way that would say, this was a no-brainer.
If it's raining down on you, I'm going to be upset because it's not raining over here. It may be raining in Denver, but down in Colorado Springs, it's dry as a bone.
But there are signs of life that say, these building blocks you're putting in place are paying dividends, and you're seeing sort of a snowball effect, at least up to this point, that makes you want to keep going. And when we started, on a couch,
in your living room,
drinking some coffee in my living room, envisioning the future, having a crazy idea, putting together a game plan for a September launch of a podcast. Again, back to your point, 7-part series. I think originally it was going to be more leadership oriented, but just circumstances changed, and we pivoted a little bit as we were doing our first couple of episodes and talking with folks about what we were doing and getting feedback and iterating. I don't think we anticipated where we would be today. And I'm proud of you, John, for like doing this with me and
Sure.
traveling this crazy road that neither one of us had a lot of experience in. And
yeah, well, to that point, we were going to talk about leadership, and we were going to expand that out for a couple episodes, but I believe that we came to the conclusion that leadership is being talked by a lot of people.
It is.
And it's a phenomenal topic, and it can be discussed for hours upon hours. And there's so many different rabbit trails and different takes on successful leadership. And I just believed that there weren't many people out there, or at least many podcasts, that are talking about the struggle from our perspective, really kind of in the trenches of living it out on a daily basis. And I think that's where we are at. We are talking about our journey from one career path to the next, this big transition, and the day-to-day trials and errors, wins and losses, struggles, and we're just living it out on live air, in recorded podcast form, so that we can prove to people, like we talked about a minute ago, that failure is normal and the success trajectory is sometimes slower than you expect it to be, but that's okay. We're experiencing that same thing, and we just wanted to make it normal for other people to maybe hear from us.
Yeah, and some of the advice or things we've shared with the audience early days in our episodes that didn't include guests, we talked about daily routines and 1% better every day, and those have been good reminders to me and you, to stay focused and help you not get too overwhelmed, with things that are going on. It's so easy to start envisioning the future you want, and then you start thinking about the 1,000 things you have to do for that vision to happen, and you can find yourself, paralyzed at moments like, oh my God, I'm not getting 100 things done today to get me to that vision that I want, in 6 months, which is not even realistic. So it's a good sort of gut check, the things we talk about. And then to your point earlier about the things that our guests have shared that are reassurance that, these steps are steps in the right direction. Even if they feel like steps that are taking you backwards, they're actually steps where you're learning something in that process.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, where are we today? So we launched our first...
Where are we?
Where are we? We launched our first couple of episodes on September 20th. Our MVP, and we were... I was a little apprehensive about, getting on air and talking through this crazy journey that you'd been almost a year into, and I was starting. And
let me back up. Talk about MVP, because the first thing I think of when I hear MVP is Michael Jordan on the basketball court, most valuable player. Different aspect when it comes to what you're talking about. So expand on that.
I apologize. I'm using acronyms. I
never use acronyms before you.
It's the curse of 18 years in tech, and there's so many of them. And then there's industry specific ones on top of that. I know I've talked about it on a previous episode, but if you've missed that, when you think about a product launch, you have your idea, you build a proof of concept, you get some feedback, you launch a MVP or a minimal viable product, which is something that exists sort of bare bones in the market for people to use in some way. For our purposes, our product is our conversation, is the podcast. And then over time, you add, for lack of a better word, features to the product. Maybe that's in the beta form as you're continuing to build out this product for the masses, or you've reached the masses and you're continuing to add some things along the way in what would be your product roadmap. But we're bringing in guests. We're talking about other parts of our business that we're excited about, and we'll share some more about that here in a little bit. But that's what I mean when I say MVP. We're not most valuable players in any sense of the maybe common term there, but that it's been fun. I mean, I think that's a key ingredient to this whole thing.
100%.
It's hard. It's very hard, but it's fun at the same time. You don't realize. The audience, just so you're aware, if you want to start a podcast, there's a lot of preparation and planning and orchestration that goes in just between John, Jeremy, and me. But also, as you start to bring in other dimensions, guests and things like that, now you're adding another variable to the process. And there's so much out of your control that you're trying to sort of make progress with. You have to adjust to the situation in the moment and be like, okay, this thing's not working out right now. Let me pivot my time in that day to do something that I can get done. I think we've talked about this a little bit, but I probably dragged that on a little bit longer than you were expecting me to on the MVP.
No, I think it's good content.
Yeah,
it's good content because for us, our minimum viable product was you and I sitting together for 7 episodes talking about leadership. That's what we thought was the direction that was going to start us off. And I believe episode 2 or 3, after we recorded, we thought to ourselves, man, this is kind of a bigger topic. This second act and this transition thing. It's kind of growing legs and changing how we are addressing. And then for you and I, we sat and we thought, wow, how many other people have these stories? And we also started receiving input that was changing that product. Input from people who said, man, I resonate with what you're talking about.
Yep.
And that's me, or that could be me in next couple of months. And it really just started to change what we wanted to bring to the public and to our listeners. So I think that transition is important for people because you may start with something. You may start with an idea or direction, and you may find yourself changing slightly or maybe drastically. And I think for us, this is a slight change to bring in guests, but the feedback has been phenomenal.
Yeah,
and
it really has.
On a personal level, I can say that in my transition, not to get too deep into this and derail the train, but where I thought I would be a year ago now is completely different from where I am. But that journey and that transition and those slight alterations have made this experience what it has been. And so I want to give people the freedom to know that you can transition and take these variations, but it's not going to devalue where you end up. It's going to just make it more significant.
Yeah. And what I've heard from people listening, as well as some of the guests, is like, hey, sharing the ups and downs and sideways of life and being vulnerable is very helpful just for my overall well-being. Like it helps my mental health. It helps the healing process if you have had some setbacks. Which I find, really fascinating. The more transparent and open and vulnerable you are with folks, the more people, it's like a call to action for help when you're not really asking for help. And it's amazing people who come together and want to help you that you didn't know were there to support you.
Yeah.
It's an awesome experience to see unfold.
Yeah.
But yeah, we like a couple other things. We've had the amazing guests already, and the lineup's taking us well into 24. We've planned Now, we've had one event, our launch event. We have a fundraiser coming up, and we want to do one per quarter, an event.
Yeah.
I don't know if each event will be a fundraiser, but at least a way for the Second Act community to come together. So we're thinking about that next year. We've developed a logo and created a little merchandise shop on our website, which is kind of fun.
Yep.
So check that out. If you have a second, just go to michaelandjohn.com and head over to the shop page and see what we've come up with. And then there's been learnings along the way. And when you pursue your second act, or third act, or what, however you want to describe that, but when you're pursuing that, it can feel like you're losing a piece of your old self, your old identity.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. Who you are is a summation of your life experiences up to that point. So it's not going to go away, and it's sort of made you the person you are. Some things you might not like so much, some things you may love. But you're now reinventing yourself, and now the old you is just not the dominant part of who you are, or where you want to go. It's something else.
Yeah.
And you're developing a new sense of purpose. You're figuring out who needs you, who listens to you, who values you. It could be some of the same people. It could be different people. It's usually probably a mix of both. And we've also learned that we were just talking about this, how hard it is to start something from nothing. You're sort of out there on an island. Maybe there's two people on the island in our case. It's like trying to figure out how to get off the island and into something that's sustainable. And marketing, getting attention, ensuring a great customer experience, figuring out ways to monetize things you're doing, finding allies and supporters to help support you in the process. All the things, that go into a business, and being cognizant of where you're spending your budget for the things that you want to do that'll increase awareness and downloads and subscribers and all the things that can turn this into a meaningful business. It's hard. But again, coming back, it's fun, and I've had a lot of fun doing this with you, John.
Yeah. Well, I've had a great time, Michael, and you've hit on a couple points that I want to elaborate on. And one is this word solopreneur is real popular in our culture these days, and entrepreneurs, solopreneur. And I'll tell people that the momentum you can gain by having somebody else by your side, kind of an iron sharpening iron, if people are familiar with that term, is relevant in this space that you and I are in right now. Because there are days where we come to record, or we come to talk about the expansion of the second act and how we grow our audience and how we grow the momentum and how we, reach out to people that we may not be reaching yet. And there's such a value to being partnered with somebody that's like-minded, that's striving for the same thing, because some days, to be quite honest, you're not going to feel it.
Yep.
And you're not going to have the momentum behind you, but you have that partner who's bringing to bear maybe a different look or a different skill or a different way of doing things, that you hear that idea or you hear that suggestion, you're like, man, that is awesome. That just fuels part of me where I wasn't excited and now I'm excited. And it may be vice versa. And between the two of you, there's so much more synergy. There's so much more excitement that can get funneled into the project. Whereas if you're doing it by yourself and you don't feel it that day, well, guess what? You may just not do anything.
Yeah.
You may not perform.
Yeah.
And it may not grow as fast. But I guarantee that if you can find somebody else that's like-minded, that's wanting to push and willing to encourage you, then you'll find the times that you're encouraging them, and you gain so much from having that partner. I mean, I know it from personal experience. A year ago, when I left the Marine Corps and left flying helicopters, I started a couple side ventures. One was coaching. One was speaking to various organizations and getting on some stages. But that was just me. And there were days where I came to the office and I sat down to write some content or to get a lead, and I just wasn't feeling it. I was either feeling maybe imposter syndrome, or I was feeling the weight of having to come up with content that day, or sitting in front of a client that I knew was going to take a little bit more work to tease out some of their issues and some of the growth. Man, if I had a partner on some of those days, the growth would have been astronomical. But it was up to me. And I know that I work better in teams.
Yeah.
I work better on a team when I can see the deficiencies and I can see areas of growth that maybe the rest of the team is not seeing.
Yep.
And so I want to encourage somebody that's out there maybe trying to pursue that solopreneur, the entrepreneurial role by themselves, and say, if there is a place for you to bring somebody else in, that may be the life that you need, the breath that you need to just really elevate where you're going.
Yeah.
And you may know that too, just coming from the tech industry and now being out in the marketplace, maybe in this realm with a team, you and I, but then trying to do some things on your own.
Yeah, there's a couple of things in there, and I want to go back to my childhood. I'm very thankful for my parents encouraging me to do both an individual and a team sport growing up. Looking back, I think that has been incredibly helpful in shaping my mindset on, winning on your own, losing on your own, winning as a team, losing as a team. There's just a lot of lessons learned through those experiences that carry through to this day. And what you were just talking about, having, I think in the military there's like battle buddies, and in maybe the civilian world you think about somebody like an accountability partner, somebody to just hold you accountable in a constructive way. And just, if you don't have anybody, if you are a solopreneur, find someone, ask someone to be your accountability partner, that you're going to say you're going to do something and you're going to follow up with them in a week and tell them whether you did it or not. I think it's a great way as a motivator and to keep you focused in certain respects on the things that you want to set out to accomplish. And maybe if you try to overextend yourself, that accountability partner will be like, hey, you're overloading yourself. There ain't no way you're going to get that done in a week or in a day. And they'll keep you in check. And that's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that I want to talk about is, and I alluded to it earlier in the show, was deviating from your purpose, or deviating from what you think you're aiming for. A year ago, I had this objective that I was going to chase after, and action towards that goal led me down a path. But there were open doors and there were closed doors. The only way to get to those open doors is to keep walking, metaphorically, keep moving. And you wouldn't have the connections, I wouldn't have the connections or those open doors to get me where I am today if I just stayed stagnant. So if I said, hey, I'm going to coach and that's the only thing I'm going to do, and I'm not willing to adjust and pivot or deviate at all, I may be stuck somewhere. I may be stuck, churning my wheels, trying to figure out how to keep momentum. But I was open to alternatives. And that led me to some speaking opportunities, and speaking led me to some connections, and connections led me to opportunities and offers. And so if you would have asked me, a year ago what I'd be doing today, it probably wouldn't be podcasting and hosting. And in January 2024, I'm going and selling commercial aircraft, which definitely wasn't on the radar as well. But those are things that are fitting in my story and into the narrative of just moving forward, keeping constant grow, keeping constant motion forward.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes you get knocked back, but sometimes you have to keep going. And
Absolutely.
then you find a door, and it's either opens and you go through it, or it closes and you keep, navigating your way around. But again, to people that are listening, that are dead set on one thing, maybe that's great. Maybe that's the momentum you need. But some people are going to think, man, I'm just not getting there as fast as I am, as I want to. There may be other alternatives that eventually get you to where you want to be. So be open to that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Have a vision, but don't ignore, the experiences and the zigs and zags along the way that are going to get you to where your vision is. Because there's so many amazing things that happen in that sort of life journey, that process, that if you're so sort of myopically focused on that one thing, that's great. You may achieve it, but I would venture to guess you're probably going to miss out on some other amazing opportunities along the way by having, in some ways, those blinders on, trying to get to that thing that, look, there's a chance you may never get to that one thing, and think about what you'd be giving up, right? Like nothing is guaranteed in life except death and taxes, they say. So enjoy the life journey, work hard, have focus in what you're doing, do what you say you're going to do, and see where it takes you. Those simple sort of rules tend to get people pretty far.
Yep. We say in the Marine Corps, no plan survives first contact.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before. Mike Tyson says everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face, but have a plan, push off with a goal in mind, but be ready to pivot. Be ready that when that first obstacle comes, that you have a plan to pivot around that. And don't be deterred by the growth that you're experiencing or the wealth you're trying to accumulate. Just keep pressing, because eventually you'll look back and you'll say, man, I don't know how I got where I was, but I know that I just kept trying. I just kept moving forward.
Yeah, I was talking to a buddy of mine recently, and we were talking about the podcast and this business. And, the one thing I said to him is I'm glad we started when we did. I'm glad I didn't wait. Now looking back 3 months and recognizing the incremental progress we've made, it feels good. Do I wish we were further along in some areas? And again, I wish it was like raining money, maybe, but it's not, and I'm okay with that. I try to be objective and have realistic expectations. But again, going back, I do have a vision of where I want to go. But I also know that I have to focus on the day and the week and the month and the things that we need to get done to get there. Yeah. And then what's coming next year, we talked about it. We have an outstanding guest lineup, really diverse group of folks coming on to talk about their stories. The events that we're going to do next year are going to be exciting. You've got some other lines of business that you're working on that are going to be exciting for you. And who knows what other things are planned for me. I'm excited not just for the Second Act podcast, but also the Seltzer Kings network and some of the things that they have planned to level up their game and become an important part of the podcast network that exists in the world. I mean, if you haven't contemplated this world, there's a significant amount of growth expected for this space. And because of that means there's going to be a lot of competition, which is fun. It makes it a little more challenging. And the barriers to entry are not that high, but just because the barriers to entry are not high, and what I mean by that for folks who, are familiar with all the business lingo, it just means it's not that hard for a person to have an idea to start a podcast and start podcasting. You just need some recording mechanism and a way to push it out. However, to create something that's good, better than average or even great, and talk about things that people want to hear and listen to, and make it easy for them to find you, and have things that they associate with what you're doing. All these little pieces you need to start to think about and put together if you want to make a go at this. And, I say all that because we've had that help through the Seltzer Kings network.
Yep, absolutely.
And they're looking to accelerate that next year. So I'm excited for us and in partnership for them to see where all of that goes. So more to come. But I know we wanted to give the audience just a little update. I still think we're kind of in the beta version. We're not perfected for the masses yet, John, but the beta version is showing, again, signs of life where we started this podcast today, and I'm excited to see where things go.
Well, I laid in bed last night thinking about this episode and just what we were going to talk about. And I started to chuckle to myself because of where we've come in 3 months and what we're doing. And I laughed and said, I think I could literally do anything at this point. Meaning this was not in my wheelhouse. This is not something I expected to do. But because we had an idea, and weeks later, we stepped out on that idea and started working. And now here we are 3 months into it. And it's going, in my mind, pretty well. Mm-hmm. I thought, what else is there that I can't do out there? What else do I want to try that I just need to start? Is it writing a book? Is it speaking more? Is it growing, the coaching business? Is it growing this thing to be just explosive? But this has taught me, this podcast and this series of talking to you and to our guests has taught me that people can do anything they want if they just start trying.
Yeah. It's
a little bit of data and then just boom, let's hit the ground running. We didn't start once we had it all figured out.
No.
We didn't have all the data. We didn't have all the tools.
Not.
We didn't have all the lights and the microphones and the cameras. We just started. And I think we will see some significant growth between this episode and our 50th and 100th. And that's what people need to know is just start. Just take the steps to get going and pursue your dreams and pursue goals. And when you look back, you're going to be overwhelmed with how far you came.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a story recirculating now on various social channels that really hits home on what you just said. There's a music artist named Maggie Rogers who has produced a hit song called Alaska. And the story in the form of a video that's going around right now, this is from like 6 or 7 years ago, is her sitting next to Pharrell in a music studio, either at the university she's attending or somewhere nearby. And she's sitting there next to Pharrell, very well-known artist, and the teacher asks her to play her song for him, and he's going to listen and critique it. He's doing this for other students as well. And she puts the song on, and it's got it's an awesome song if you've never heard Alaska. I'd never heard it actually before I had seen this circulating recently. But she's like listening to her beat and the music and everything, and then she like pans over slightly to Pharrell, and you can tell she's a little nervous, and she's like, oh my God, what's he gonna think? And but he's like trying to hold a straight face, but is cracking a smile because he's really into it. He's like, and he doesn't say anything through the whole, for the whole time that this is being played, other than like these facial gestures. And then at the end, he tells her he's got no notes, no critiques of anything she's put together. And I guess the moral of that story has been shared is that you just have to put yourself out there and do something, and don't be afraid whether, someone's going to love it or hate it. Just getting back to what you said, just doing something, getting going, and seeing where it goes from there. I was the lesson that was taken away from that, and good on her that she hit a home run with that song. And now I'm a Maggie Rogers fan. Listening to that, it's really got a great beat to it. That story certainly helps me frame things in my mind for sure as we keep going, John.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, again, like you said, we've got a phenomenal lineup of people coming on the show that we're going to be recording over the next couple of weeks. So I'm really excited for our audience to hear these different perspectives from all over the lineup, all over the talent pool. What am I looking for? All over the spectrum of abilities, and so
just all backgrounds from all over. I mean, we named a few of them. Some people are early career, some people are late career. Some people want to tell a story about something personal, like that they're trying to achieve now in their second act. Other people want to talk about something more professional oriented.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's these stories that we're helping them share with our audience about their second act that just makes this process so much fun.
Yeah. I love it. Well, we're going to have some fun over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We've got this fundraiser coming up on the 14th.
Yep.
But after that, we are hitting it hard, and we are going to be recording some great episodes. So we look forward to having you guys listen along. If you want to check out previous episodes, www.michaelandjohn.com.
Yep.
Find a second act show that intrigues you, and give us some feedback. Like us, comment on the show, subscribe. All that helps. It gives us information that we can just make this show better with. So,
yeah, for sure. We try to release every Wednesday, and we've been good about that since we started. So subscribe, and as soon as the new episode's available, you'll get a notification on your device that it's there to listen to. And we're very appreciative and thankful for our audience dialing into the things that we share and that our guests share. So again, thank you for all those that are supporting us up to this point.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Michael, I will see you next week, sir.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, John.
All right. See ya.
The Second Act with Michael and John stars Michael Newborn and John Ballenger. The podcast is produced by Seltzer Kings. For more information on the show, check out michaelandjohn.com, or if you'd like to get involved in the conversation, give the guys a shout on their socials at The Second Act with Michael and John on most platforms. Thanks for listening.